Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Inside Legends. The date is Sunday, February 8th, 2026, and today we're going to talk about this news coming out of the state of New Jersey about the Democratic special election Democratic primary results. Now, yes, I know I'm a little bit late to this news. This news came out about 3 days ago on February 5th, but stick around because I'm not just covering this news, I'm covering what this news means for the 2026 Senate elections in the midterms, of course. So, before I get into this, I'm going to put this out there. I'm going to mispronounce some of these names. I'm sorry. I do not know how to pronounce them well. But there's four key candidates in this race in the New Jersey 11th U.S. House Democratic Special Election Primary. Analia Meha, Tom Malinowski, Tahisha Way, and Brendan Gill. All four of these candidates were Democrats. Yes, this was a Democratic primary. However, they all had their different stances. For example, Analia Meha was the progressive left candidate in this race. Tom Malinowski and Brendan Gill were both the moderate Democrats in this race. They were the center-left Democrats in this race. And then Tahisha Way was the Israel AIPAC back candidate. That's who she was. She was the primarily Israel-backed candidate in this Democratic primary. And the reason this is so important, these results, is because Analia Meha won this election in a shocking upset and proved that progressives are on the rise in this political climate. Analia Meha was very much not the favorite. Tom Malinowski was the favorite to win this race, the one of the moderate candidates in this race. He was by far favored to win this election. Analia Meha was expected to not win this election. She was expected to lose this primary election. However, as you can see, she won. She won by about 2 points, and her lead is only expanding as the results still pile in. Her lead is expanding. It's so much so, this was such an upset that I actually don't have it up. However, when these votes were first starting to be counting in this race, Tom Malinowski was up by so much that Decision Desk HQ, the website I'm using, actually called the election for Tom Malinowski. And then later, once some more votes came in and Analia Meha overperformed, they had to revoke that win. They had to wait for more votes to come in to say in their vote Tom Malinowski's winner status of this election. And now you can see the race still is not called. I mean, Analia Meha has won this election. She has. It's just Decision Desk HQ hasn't called it. She's winning by about 900 votes by now. It just expands as more votes pile in. She won this election. Okay, enough of my yapping about this election. Actually, a little bit more yapping about this election. We had one singular poll from this election, and Tom Malinowski won in the poll. This poll predicted Tom Malinowski get 28% of the vote, which, to their credit, they got it correct, nearly dead on. He got 27.7%. He got 28% of the vote. However, that's Michigan. However, Analia Meha, the one who won this election, was polling at 5%. Same with Tahisha Way. Brendan Gill was actually pretty close. This poll had him at 12%. He got 14%. But they far underestimated specifically Analia Meha. Yes, they underestimated Tahisha Way, but they mostly underestimated Analia Meha. And the reason this is so important is because this is signaling what the 2026 midterms are going to look like on the Democratic primary side. For example, I mentioned Michigan. Michigan currently has a tightly contested Democratic primary, similar to this one. They have a progressive left candidate, they have a moderate candidate, and they have another even more progressive left candidate. That being the most progressive left candidate, being Abdul El Sayed, Mallory McMorrow being the progressive left candidate, and then Haley Stevens being the center left, centrist, moderate corporate Democrat. And Haley Stevens is leading in the majority of the polls. I mean, only one singular poll has Mallory McMorrow winning. Every other poll has Haley Stevens winning. However, with this election news, I think, in my opinion, we can expect Mallory McMorrow to win this Democratic primary, to be the Democratic nominee for Senate in the state of Michigan in 2026. And that's what these elections are showing us. They're showing us that even though moderate, centrist, even Israel-backed Democratic candidates do well in polls, in actual elections, the progressive left candidate wins. And that is the same thing that's going to happen in the state of Michigan, which is why Mallory McMorrow or even Abdul El Sayed, even the furthest left candidate in this race, could potentially pull an upset to win this election, to win this Democratic primary, to go on to face up against Mike Rogers in the overall Senate race, to become one of the most progressive senators in the country. And this is not just my opinion. I mean, look, I know Polymarket is a gambling website. It is not the best predictor of elections, of news, but they're mostly accurate. People, $150,000 have gone into this market, saying mostly that they think Mallory McMorrow is going to win this election. She's going to win the Democratic primary. She has a 48% chance of winning, according to Polymarket, compared to Haley Stevens' 26%, despite her leading in all of the polls except for the most recent one. Okay, now let's just Michigan. I mentioned that there's more states. I think I did, but there are more states. There are 3 more states that I want to specifically talk about and what these election results mean for the Democratic primaries in these states to become the next Democratic senators from these states, to become some of the most potentially become some of the most progressive senators in the country. The next race I want to talk about is the state of Maine. Once again, another swing state. And unlike Michigan, unlike this New Jersey primary, both the candidates are not, it's not a far left candidate versus a centrist candidate. It is a progressive left candidate versus a corporate Democrat. Janet Mills being that corporate Democrat, not exactly a corporate Democrat, but sort of establishment. She's the incumbent governor of Maine. She is 78 years old. She is running to be the next U.S. senator. She is not incredibly progressive, not incredibly far left, but she's still a Democrat. Compared to Graham Plattner, he's seen as the new guard, while Janet Mills is seen as the old guard. He's seen as the Democratic candidate to excite young voters, to excite progressive voters, to excite a new guard of the Democratic Party, to give up the centrist, moderate corporate Democrats who represent the majority of blue states in the United States Senate. And even though most of the polls of this race mixed, Janet Mills and Graham Plattner, it's about roughly half and half of who's leading. I believe that with this news out of New Jersey, with the potential news out of Michigan, and the news out of Illinois and Texas, which we're going to talk about in a minute, I think Graham Plattner is going to pull off the Democratic primary victory because, as we can see, as in this election, and keep in mind, this election was not a small, tiny election. This special election primary had a total of 64,000 votes, 63,598 votes. Look at this. Where is it? Sorry, give me 2 seconds. Let me go up to 2024. This was the same congressional district in 2024. Yes, Mike Sherrill won it. Where is the primary? Yeah, in the primary, the total votes for the election was 52,000. This special election primary in the middle of February had a larger turnout than the actual primary for the seat ahead of the 2024 presidential election. So this is not a small sample. This is an actual sample of the electorate in this New Jersey House seat. And the next state I've already talked about Maine. I think that because of this news, I think Graham Plattner, the progressive candidate, is going to pull an upset against Janet Mills and win, possibly by a large margin in this state. And the next thing I want to talk about is the state of Illinois. Now, once I get into this, I'm going to say I cannot pronounce this person's name. I cannot pronounce his name. Raha something. I cannot pronounce the name. I'm sorry. So don't expect me to. But in every single poll, he's leading, and by large margins, by 20 points that. And he is the center-left candidate. He is the moderate candidate in this race compared to Robin Kelly being like the slightly further left than Raha, but less far left than Juliana Stratton. Juliana Stratton is the progressive left candidate. And with this news out of New Jersey, with this news potentially out of Michigan and Maine, we can expect Julia Stratton to possibly have a chance of pulling it out in upset after being behind by 20 points in the vast majority of polls. She could pull out an upset. Being the progressive left candidate, she could win this Democratic primary. And of course, it's the state of Illinois. Whoever wins this Democratic primary is going to be the next senator from the state of Illinois. And like I showed you before with the Michigan poly market, I want to show you the market in Illinois. Now you see that this Raha candidate, he leads by about 20 points in all the polls, like I said. However, in his poly market odds, he only has a 61% chance of winning this race, compared to Julia Stratton's, the progressive left candidate, who is behind by roughly 20 points in all the polls. She still has a 40%, 37% chance of winning this election, according to Polymarket, according to the betting markets. And I believe that. I think with these upsets we're seeing for progressive left candidates, I think Julia Sargent has a solid chance at coming out ahead in this Democratic primary in the state of Illinois to become the next United States Senator, to become a progressive senator nonetheless, compared to a centrist moderate senator like Raha Christian. I can't pronounce something. I'm sorry. But you get the point. The next state, the last state I want to talk about, I'm sorry, I know I've been going on for a long time. The last state I want to talk about is the state of Texas. Now, Texas is sort of different. This is not a progressive, very far progressive left candidate versus a moderate left candidate. It's between Jasmine Crockett and James Hillarico. But I believe this still applies to these two potential U.S. Senate nominees. Jasmine Crockett is not moderate. She's not corporate. She's not establishment, but she is part of the establishment. She is a United States representative. She's not extremely far left progressive. She's nothing too special. She's just a, how do I put this? She's a liberal representative from a black district in the state of Texas. That is kind of who she is as a candidate, whereas James Hillarico is different. He is similar to Maine, seen as the new guard of the Democratic Party. He's seen as the progressive candidate who is not campaigning in an ordinary style, who has a chance at defeating Ken Paxton or maybe even John Cornyn if he is elected as the primary, as the Democratic nominee in the United States Senate primary. When, yes, he is behind in the majority of polls, and one poll has three polls has Jasmine Crockett leading, whereas one poll has James Hillarico leading. I believe James Hillarico is going to pull out an upset in the state of Texas in the Democratic primary, and also possibly pull out an upset in the, if he's elected to be the nominee for the Democratic Party in the state of Texas for U.S. Senate. I believe he has a chance of pulling out an upset to win Texas statewide, to become the next United States Senator from the state of Texas. And that all stems from this one special election Democratic primary in the middle of February in a random congressional district in the state of New Jersey. That's what this is saying. It's saying that progressive left candidates who are doubted to win elections can win elections and are winning elections and will win elections, not only in Democratic primaries, but will win general elections. If either Mallory McMorrow or Abdul El-Sayed wins this Senate primary, we can expect them to go on to pull out sort of an upset in the Michigan Senate race as a whole to defeat Mike Rogers to become the next United States Senator from the state of Michigan. Same exact thing goes in the state of Maine. Same exact thing goes in the state of Texas, and not really Illinois, because Illinois is going to vote for the Democratic candidate no matter who they nominate. But for progressives, they want it to be Juliana Stratton, and she has a better chance at pulling out an upset than one may think. Okay, that's enough of my yapping. What are your thoughts on this news? Do you think this is newsworthy for the Democratic Party? Do you think this is delusion? What are your thoughts? Do you think because of this news, progressive Democrats are going to pull out victories in Michigan and Maine and Texas and Illinois? What are your thoughts? If you enjoyed this video, I encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I upload election news every single day. I encourage you to like this video, to turn on notifications so you can see when I upload. And yeah, hope you have a great day.